Our guest this episode is Laura Nespoli, a strategic storyteller and public speaker who uses story to spark movement and meaningful growth for people, teams, products, and brands. And after 15 years shaping brand, marketing, and product narratives for Fortune 100 and 500 organizations and global nonprofits, she founded Meshin Movement, a storytelling consultancy that blends strategy, social impact, and creative expression. Her work helps individuals and organizations tap into the power of story and unite people and inspire action. So she's here to discuss how narrative can become a catalyst for alignment and transformation. And I want to welcome to the podcast, Laura Nespoli. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So, I mean, in the intro, you've been working for all these companies for years. How did that all get started in the first place? Were you drawn to marketing, to stories, to, how did you fall into that line of work in the first place?
It was a little bit by accident. I never knew what I wanted to be when I was, setting out into my career and my path. I graduated with the intent of working in nonprofit PR, and I paid my way through school and had a lot of student debt. And when someone said, "You'd be great in sales," I was like, yeah, maybe I should just pay off my debt for a little bit. And so the first handful of roles that I had throughout my career had me in a lot of different places. And I never was anyone who kind of had a clear line of sight on where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. But in every one of those roles, I always found myself being the person that could shape the sales deck or put the pitch together or walk the client through what our recommendation was. And that took me from sales to media planning to sales in media to consulting media clients on their sales, marketing, and advertising. So a little bit of everything in the journey just kept building, and life kept taking me from one place to another based on life needs. Sorry, I'm assuming you'll edit some of this, but I have a
Well, maybe we'll now.
Maybe you won't, but I have a heater that talks out loud, and she just said, "I am here."
Well, you know what? I like that. Let's keep that in.
You can keep it in. It is certainly the way that technology is all up in our lives.
And I think, well, and I don't know, I guess that is language, but sometimes I think Zoom, it filters out a lot because I didn't actually hear it. So it's that's one of those classic, just keep going moments. But
yeah, it's so funny because it is the one thing that people do often hear when I'm on meetings and calls is my heater all of a sudden announcing that she's here. And then she just says, bye.
So what? I know we're off topic here, but I'm just curious. What kind of heater is that talks? I mean,
I don't know.
It seems unnecessary. Like it could be say, "Hey, I'm warming, I'm working," but I don't know. I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're here right now.
Yeah, we are here. And after all that wayward, where am I going? I wound up here. And
yeah.
It just kind of built. I found myself being the storyteller in every environment across the sales marketing spectrum.
Yeah. And I'm glad you just said that too, because, we work with a lot of companies at trade shows, right? And on with the marketing department. And so often the word story is interchangeable for messaging, where it bugs me because I'm like, well, that's not really a story. It's like somehow story became a bit of a buzzword corporately at some point. And I feel like the definition of it got muddied a little bit. Can you, Laura, from your angle, because I believe you use it properly, and you're talking about that, how do you define it? And let's take ownership of the word story, shall we?
Sure. Yeah. So I think about story as it pertains to marketing specifically as just, I guess, before marketing, story is an arc, it's a journey. You're taking someone who has there's a certain context, a situation that they're in, whether it's a pain point, a challenge, and you're bringing them through a journey. Now, obviously, in sales and marketing, we hope to do that for our customers. We want to create some sort of movement for them, some sort of benefit. And so, in a lot of ways, you could think about something so small as a value proposition, a really punchy statement that should have two elements. It should have a resolution or a benefit to your customer and what you do. And in those two little elements, you can have a story where you can convey or infer the movement or the arc that you're going to bring them on. So, story does have a lot of range when you think about it that way. But I guess when I consider all the ways that we talk about storytelling in business, it really should be customer centered because you want to convey their experience and convey some sort of journey or from here to there.
Right. Yeah, and I think about it the same way in terms of they're at point A in the problem state, and the point B where they're enjoying the benefits of not having that problem. And what is that story arc? And I often, when we do it, we're doing magic, talking about the actual product or whatever the company or solution. But there's that aha moment, that story arc where we put in our little twist and make it fun and make it memorable. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that little piece to that's nice. So, like when we talk story and what do people really resonate with? Because you said something about the clients need to see themselves in it, right? They need to associate and go there. Is
Yeah.
that really the magic ingredient in terms of the stories? Is just painting let's say the character, if we will, in quotes, as that you know ideal customer, or
I think there's a few things. So I base all strategies, all story strategies that I build.
okay,
I use four foundational strategic elements, which is really traditional for most strategy. You've got the
right,
context or the category,
sure,
what's the situation you're in, who's your customer, what are they experiencing, what pain points do they have, what are their motivations, their barriers, et cetera, and the competitive set, what's everyone else saying or doing? What is the
gotcha.
messaging? And I want to circle back on your messaging question. What's out there, and that helps you identify white space, opportunity, positioning space. And then the fourth C is your company or your brand, your product, whatever the case might be. And if I start every strategy with four C's, whether I'm doing a naming assignment, whether I'm doing a purpose story, whether I'm doing a product narrative with a messaging framework. Because those four C's, as long as I know that arc, think about it. It's like any story has the once upon a time setting. You've got your protagonist. They have some sort
Yeah,
of challenge they need to overcome. There's obstacles in their way, what's not being met, their needs. And then you've got your resolution. And those really line up with those four C's of context, customer, competitive set, and company. And if you follow those four C's, no matter what output or deliverable you need for marketing, grounding it in the four C's as an understanding to start, you can find an interesting story because within those four, you find the tension space and the pairing of
mm,
like, what is really interesting for the customer and what do you provide and what's a unique and interesting way of expressing it that you can connect with them on.
yeah. So finding that unique story that you were just talking about, I mean, you've worked with so many companies. Is there one that stands out in your mind as kind of an example of just like, oh, this worked really well, or this story just kind of came together and really spoke to the need? Or are they all kind of like, I don't know, are they all babies and you can't, it's hard to pick. Hard to pick your most favorite.
There are a few that I feel a lot of heart for. There were like
Yeah.
just moments of, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, there was one, I was working with an architecture firm and they work in passive housing design, but also not at the cost of losing luxury and high-end feel. So in the category, passive design is all about the environment and it's what's best for the land and the material. And you never see this merge between you can have this high-end luxury feel and have passive design together. And the firm was really struggling with how to articulate to clients that they take their time to really connect all the pieces, to understand the land. They understand their customer. They he said, no one wants to hear we take our time when it's an hourly rate for an expensive architecture firm. You know,
True,
they
true.
weren't
Yeah.
doing
I can
themselves
I
any
can relate to
favor with
that.
it. But there is this mentality, like measure twice, cut once. But after meeting their team, interviewing their clients, the people they've worked with this, and seeing the beautiful spaces that they had created, and just talking to the founder and understanding his approach to the work, there was a hook in there that really got me. And I read a lot when I'm doing strategy work. I do read a lot of philosophy, or I
Mm.
find a lot of inspiration in fiction, particularly like metaphorical fiction, because I think all of our issues and situations, they all come back to some human understanding, and they're rooted in true insight about what it means to be human. And I came across a quote from a French philosopher, Simone Weil. And the quote is, um, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity.
I love that.
It was beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was like just divine luck that it I came across it in the midst of this project, and I realized that giving attention, attentive architecture was something that they could really own. And that's something that clients do want to hear. They want to know that you're going to be
Well,
giving everything
yeah.
for them.
Attention to detail in architecture is important. So,
Yeah.
attentive. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
that idea of like they give their attention to finding the balance between the space and the people and the balance on how it all comes together.
yeah.
So their story was really centered on that idea of attentive architecture.
And I bet, the competition probably wasn't talking about something like that. Like that was such a departure in the
Right.
space that it
There's
really cut through
there
the
was no
noise,
blend
right?
of the two categories, so
Yes, yes. Of the company and the competition
yeah,
pillars is what you're saying, right?
exactly.
Wow. Yeah, no, I like that. Like I do appreciate and just a little bit we've been talking, Laura. You know, I don't know, just the way you talk about this, I can sense your deep expertise, right? Like there's certain things that you say and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you think about this a lot." I can and I think our listeners are probably hearing it too. And I love that, going into fiction and art and borrowing metaphors and finding things that are inspiring. Like just a quote like that is that the quote that really was the like aha moment for you for that
Oh
piece?
yeah.
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 It was what brought me to the answer.
Yeah.
So that was
Okay. Wow.
that
Makes me
was a
want to
lucky
read
one.
more. I'll tell you. um, yeah.
There's
Okay. That's
answers everywhere.
yeah. Um, you know what, lately, and this is kind of a trend I've seen, and I think it's partly a little bit to do with the mental health conversation going on now that we didn't used to talk about. But are you seeing a role of vulnerability, in storytelling? Do you see more of that? Is that a trend, or is that like, I mean, obviously, I think there's relatableness to it if companies are willing to go to that length. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts? Yeah.
Wow, great question. So that actually taps into a whole other side of my work and what I'm growing in my business. So I do speak about storytelling for team development and individual leadership growth, and vulnerability is a huge, huge part of it. So if we think about a story being the way that we connect with our customer, our client, our audience, there's science behind that. When we hear a story, our brain it starts to trigger dopamine response, which is emotional engagement. There's oxytocin, which is related to empathy. There's all sorts of reactions that are happening with our brain, so that when you hear a story, it's the only way that you can actually turn information into like you feel it as if it's your own experience. And so
Yes.
it's super, super successful when it comes to mindset and behavior change in business. But it's just as effective as we think about mindset, behavior change, or creating a connection between individuals in our personal lives. So I think it's a huge opportunity for us to continue to lean into vulnerability through storytelling, because when you share your story, your colleague, your audience, your team, they are able to relate to you because a story can do that even if they don't have the experience. Story has the power of creating that connection. But then when that happens, there's a scientific vulnerability loop that takes place
Ooh.
where person B shares their story,
Yeah.
or person A shares their story, person B receives the signal and they understand it to be vulnerability, and that opens them up to feeling safe to share in response. And it automatically creates more trust and belonging and a sense of
Mm.
community. So, and that ties to metrics, performance metrics. That ties to the way that we actually can get work done and be more productive and be more
Yeah.
innovative. And there's so many clear paths from that to outcomes. So it's a huge
Wow.
opportunity.
Yeah. That, I mean, that's, I mean, for me, you're almost kind of like making like revealing story to me again, like you go like, hey, I think I know a story, and then you're like, oh yeah, wow, like, and I do see that the vulnerability piece, creating that safety and trust, like you were saying. And I mean, if we need anything in business, it's trust, right?
Oh,
In
yeah.
terms of retaining our talent, like, and making people feel safe and comfortable and they want to come to work. Like, there's just so many, the use cases is not, it's too technical of a term, but
Yeah.
applications
Yeah.
of where this plugs in life and business and everything, right?
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah.
So
it's
I'm actually launching a book this year, and it's about my story, but then I tie it to workbook to help others really connect with their story, unravel limiting beliefs, limiting stories, and reweave patterns for growth and development. And I'm also building an app right now that merges my go-to-market storytelling with this personal narrative work. Because I think one of the biggest things that holds us back in marketing or in sales is our own narratives. Like, the
mm,
confidence to put the message out there. It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of courage to put your message out there and, promote yourself and do the sales thing. And
yeah.
I think they go hand in hand.
I I'm excited for you for the book and everything. And can you like maybe make a note to tell me when that comes out, or I'll watch on LinkedIn or something,
Yeah.
because I would definitely pick myself. In fact, if there's one thing I've done in this podcast is bought a lot of books for my guests, because you just talk with someone for a while and you're like, I need more of that.
That's
Yeah,
really
I want.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. So if you look at your business, I mean, right now, how much of it is on the personal side and how much is on the business side? Because you kind of talked about, the app bringing the two together. Do you focus on one more than the other, or is it an equal balance, or what does that look like?
Right now, it feels like everything all at once, in a really good way. It keeps me, I'm a very high energy, high productive person. I love the work that I do. And actually, in my 9 to 5, I'm an executive strategy director at a B2B enterprise marketing firm. So that's where I'm, doing product storytelling, brand storytelling for some of the biggest global tech brands throughout the day. But in my early hours, weekend hours, in between hours, I'm doing storytelling work for founders and nonprofits and doing my own work for Meshin Movement, and exploring this, coming together space of go to market and personal narrative work. And it's really hard to separate one from the other.
Yeah, you're living story every minute of the day, and then
Seriously.
dreaming it, I guess, when you're at night, right?
Yeah.
Like dreaming up stories.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about the social impact side of things,
Yeah.
and how, brands can move in that direction without falling into the kind of the performative trap, like
Yeah.
that, and I mean, and these days that can be a real landmine or a field of landmines, if you will. Do you want to, talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. It started for me personally. I mean, I started my business because I was working at a creative firm and I had this like wake up in the middle of the night experience where I envisioned a connecting contemplative meal experience that of connecting with yourself, connecting with people around the table, with your community, and with the universe through food. I love to cook. I love planning
Mm,
menus. There will be a cookbook in my future. Um, I I plan like 9 course tasting meals for friends,
wow.
but I want those to tell stories. And so I imagined like a story being unwrapped and unraveled through every part of the experience. And after that, and I had this thought that every paid experience should be creating awareness and telling the story of a nonprofit in the community so that people are coming together and paying for this incredible experience, but also creating a connection. Because once you take an action on behalf of a cause, that automatically binds you and it does create a
Yeah.
high propensity for you to support the cause in the future. So I thought it'd be a really cool and fun and new way of experiencing things. I feel the world needing more purpose. And so I started Meshin Movement to pursue that idea. It's not a profitable idea, should never be a business model. It's a beautiful thing to do for fun. And I do host them out of my house. So I started this story consultancy as, a way for me to do this work, but also explore that passion side of me. And that's just the way my brain works. I'm always thinking about how can you do something creative and use business as a force for good? So
Mhm.
I have a 10% pledge to donate, 10% of my profits to the world's most effective charities. I'm actively giving in my community. I have a Meshin Movement Foundation. And I think to answer your question, like how can businesses do this in a way that's authentic and doesn't feel performative? Is just to tie it to something that's true to your values. So if you're clear on your company's values or even like setting out to articulate the purpose of your company, what are you trying to achieve? And it doesn't have to be some high lofty, all do-gooding sort of purpose statement. It can be true to the business that you're in and what you want to do. But then it's very natural to think, for example, if you were a financial company or a fintech company and you were looking to democratize access to wealth management,
Mhm.
well, there's an easy pathway from that purpose to how do what are the right organizations for you to support? And that can be done through profit, through service, through joint marketing and using the platform that you have because marketing dollars create one of the biggest platforms of influence in the world. And I think it's a little one of my ideas over the years was to create a mechanism for, I felt like we have all these brands that want to do good, but they want to do it in an authentic way. And we have all these agencies that want to submit work for award shows and they spend so much time and money doing, submitting for RFPs and submitting for awards. What if they created work that just raised awareness for a cause and brands bid on the best ideas and were able to support the causes that they liked? It's just like a natural, everyone's a winner.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the beautiful little matchmaking, situation there. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot. And I think a lot of people thought it was performative. There's like risks you take when you start to just go out there and share your ideas, which brings
They
us back
thought
to
your idea was performative?
yeah.
Wait. Oh wait, that was my question was and now we're getting like all meta about it. It's
Yeah.
strange. Um
Yeah.
yeah,
And then,
well,
and
but
then we
no, I
get like
think
super meta, like it's vulnerable. I was like, oh
well,
man, but
yeah.
you just
I
got to
mean,
keep trying and find what's right for you.
cuz it was almost brands seeking alignment with the right cause, right?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then agencies, being able to work on something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
um Interesting. I think it's a good idea. Okay.
Well, thanks.
I'd
Maybe it'll
vote
come
for it.
back someday. None of the
Yeah.
ideas are gone forever
Okay, well, that's good,
when
that's good.
time opens up.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Laura, how can people reach out to you if they found this conversation interesting and want to dig deeper?
They can find me at meshinmovement.com, Meshin movement. They can find me on LinkedIn and Laura Nespoli, um, and on Instagram.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to have you back sometime because I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface here. So, I
Yeah,
and maybe hey, when your book comes out, let's do it again, and
I
then
would
we'll
love that.
promote your book. Okay,
Yeah. Awesome.
wouldn't that be
Thanks,
cool?
Anders.
Awesome. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.